Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Aki again, back with another Clash of Clans video. In today's video, we're not actually going into any strict gameplay. We're actually going to do the best guide for pretty much like equipment and pets, because I didn't want to make them like separate videos. I felt like that would have been a little bit confusing. So having it all in one video, you guys can come back to this anytime. For this army we're starting off with is the Synchronic Gaming one in the version Itsu shared. For me, these are the #1 sets of equipment and pets that you should use, but we'll go over some other options as well. So for the king, we're running the Earthquake Boots, Spiky Ball with the Phoenix. For the queen, I'm running Magic Mirror and the Healer Puppet with Frosty. You could put the Unicorn here if you wanted. The reason I use Frosty is because the way you use this army, you have the Golem in front of your queen. So you have enough tanking and your queen doesn't really need to be healed up. So hence why Frosty is a better option. For the Warden, you have to have the Yak, and because it's one of the first heroes out, come on, it's all good to use. And then you're using both books for this army. I haven't really played around with other stuff, but I have in friendly challenges, so we'll talk to that a little bit later. For the Royal Champion, we're going the Seeking Shield Rocket Spear with the Spirit Box. But don't worry, if you're like, say, Town Hall 15, what you can do, we can switch this up. So what I'd say if you're at Town Hall 15, you don't have, I don't know, you don't have like the Spirit Box. Okay, sure, that's all good. You can either switch to Diggy. If you don't like Diggy and say if you're upgrading it, go back to Lassie. That would be my best options for the Spirit Box. Other than that, I wouldn't really put anything beside it. Warden, it has to stay with the Yak. For the Queen, though, you could go to the Unicorn. Would be my #2 option. And then #3, honestly, I would just keep it at those two because they're the ones that work the best. For the King, if you don't have the Phoenix, say it's upgrading and say you just like haven't really spent enough Dark Elixir into it, you can totally be fine with putting the Unicorn on the King. You can even put the Poison Lizard. Well, that's the other option I really like. For Town Hall 16, some really like the Angry Jelly on the Queen. I should actually mention that. For this army, me personally, I would rather go Unicorn #2 and then the Angry Jelly, because I feel like it sometimes runs in front of the Golem. In terms of equipment, however, we can change. We can go for the #2 choice. I would probably put the Giant Gauntlet Rage because it's easy accessible to most players. Everyone usually has the Rage up because it was one of the most, it's a common equipment, and it was like given to you at level 15 if you're at max. Giant Gauntlet, first ever epic equipment out. So that's my second choice for the king. For the queen, if you don't say have the magic mirror, that's fine. But my #2 choice would be either putting the frozen arrow here, always maintain the healer puppet. And then for your warden, if you don't have both books, you could either go the rage gem and drop which one you don't have. So say if you don't have the healing tome, put in the rage. But I would really recommend having both books. For the royal champion, it's easy. Just go the hog puppet and the haste vial for your #2 choice. And then say for the warden, let's just put in the rage gem, for example. For your third choice, especially on the king, I would have to throw in double epics. I don't think the Barbarian Puppet is good at all. The Vamp Stash at Town Hall 16 really doesn't give you that value. At lower Town Halls, you can throw it in there. But my #3 would be Earthquake Boots, Spiky Ball. Then we got the Rage and Giant Gauntlet. And then the third, double epics, just because it's so expensive. For your queen, if you don't have the Frozen Arrow, my third choice would be Healer Puppet in the Invisibility Vial. And then for the Warden, say if you don't even have the Eternal Tome and you're just like stuck in no man's land, go Rage and Life Gem. Heck, if you don't have it, that's like the bottom of the barrel. Or you could go Healing and Rage. It's totally up to you. And then for the Royal Champion, I would really stick it out with this. But if you don't even have that, then just go the most basic set of equipments, which is this. But I'll catch you guys in the next army, and we'll do kind of the same thing for 13 different armies. So this might be a long video, but I think it'll be well worth it. Okay, for the next army, it's Hydra. For the king, I'm going to be running, it kind of stays the same, Earthquake Boots and Spiky Ball with the Phoenix. For the queen, we're running Giant Arrow Healer Puppet. It is the #1 option for the queen. Warden, the #1 option in my opinion, and this one can change a little bit, but I'll put it at #1 for right now, is the Eternal Tome and the Rage Gem. Just works so nicely with the dragons. It pairs up very well. Royal Champion, undisputed #1, Spirit Fox with the Rocket Spear and Seeking Shield. For the king, in terms of if you say you don't have the Phoenix or you can't use it upgrading like I said before, you can use the Poison Lizard. That's another option that I've kind of sent out there. Another one, this one Clash with Shu really does, is the Angry Jelly. I'd put those two as the most ones that can really help out with this army. For the queen, however, if you don't have, say, like, you don't want to use the healer puppet, I would use Frosty. That's the best option. For your warden, the owl is the #1 option because it's air. You don't draw any ground targeting, like say you don't draw the CC out. So I really like pairing it with the owl. I would not change it because it is one of the earliest ones you unlock. I would definitely have it for this army. Royal Champion, it kind of goes the same way. If you're Town Hall 15 and you don't have the Spirit Fox, I'd jump back down to Diggy or Lassie as your last alternative. In terms of your actual equipment for your king, this is the number one option. Number two, I'm actually going to put the giant gauntlet in rage because he just stays on the outside. So hence why I use it. For your number two option for your queen, say if you don't have the giant arrow, I definitely would stay still, say have the healer puppet, but maybe toss in the warden. Sorry, the frozen arrow. For the warden, however, I would put at the number two option the eternal tome with the healing tome. Just works so nicely with dragons. And then for your royal champion, the number two option is obviously the hog puppet and the haste vial. This is kind of what I'd say all around the board, secondary kind of choices. For your third, however, your king, you kind of can have some fun with this. I would turn it into the giant gauntlet and vamp stash. This is where it's actually kind of good because your king's on the outside, doesn't take too much damage. I don't like bringing the earthquake boots because he kind of starts entering towards the core. Giant gauntlet on the outside with the vamp stash works very, very nicely. At the third level for the queen, I would say the healer puppet and the invisibility vial. The archer puppet is just not worth it right now. It's so bad. And then for the warden, if you say you don't want to use the eternal tome and rage, and you don't want to use both books, you can do the healing tome and the rage. That would probably be the third one. It works, but I really am scared about the town hall poison, so I like having the eternal tome, hence why this is at the third option. And then for the royal champion at the bottom, I would say maybe the seeking shield and just your normal, however it is, blank. Or you actually could, if you do have the rocket spear, you could put that in with the hog puppet. But obviously, if you don't have it at the number one level with the seeking shield, I would put this at number three, all around the board. But in terms of the equipment, like the pets, this is the pet I really like. Honestly, these are the ones throughout the board that work really good. But for your king, you can change it up to literally, like I said, the poison lizard. Have fun with it. But I'll see you guys in the next army, and we'll discuss even more. Okay, for the next army is really where we see the biggest switch, I'd say. And kind of funny I said that, but for super witches, the king, I'm running the earthquake boots and spiky ball, but I'm actually changing it to the spirit fox. The reason for this is when you're using the royal champion, the rocket spear, and seeking shield, the phoenix provides more value because sometimes the spirit fox will run out in front when you don't have recall spells and just get taken out, so you don't get any value. And then because the earthquake boots and spiky ball are not as tanky for your king, you actually get like a weaker king. The spirit fox helps take some damage off him. For the queen, Magic Mirror Healer Puppet. Sadly, you're going to see this a lot. It is really the number one equipment right now out for any strategy. I would recommend it for pretty much anything as you've seen so far. But for the Warden, the number one is the Fireball and the Raid Gem with the Unicorn. If you want to make some changes here for in terms of pets, for Town Hall 16s, you can swap back. You can put the Phoenix on the King and Spirit Fox on the Royal Champion. If you're, say, a Town Hall 15, the Royal Champion, honestly, Diggy's the best then. If you want, you can sometimes try the Lizard. I've also seen kind of can find some success. For the King, if you're not running the Phoenix or the Spirit Fox, I would say, personally, maybe tossing, like, say, Diggy could be an option, or the Yak. I've seen some people use the Yak, and it does provide some success at lower town halls, so check that out. For the queen, it's pretty simple. If you're not running Frosty on the queen, you can run the unicorn and switch that off to the warden, and you can put warden on the Frosty. No, Frosty on the warden, I should say. But for the warden, another one that's a possibility, maybe at the third choice, is the poison lizard. It kind of helps just take out some CC troops and stays behind the big boys, so you can find some success with that as well. In terms of equipment, however, this is the number one throughout the board. This is what I like for this army. For the king, if you want to change it up, I really do like the giant gauntlet with the rage. This makes your king very, very tanky. And then at the number three choice, first I was thinking of putting the vamp stash in there, but no, I don't think I will. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Let me get the second choice for the queen. Queen for this one, I am really finding a hard time finding change ups here. It's got to be the frozen arrow at number two choice. And then for the warden, it's easy. Eternal Tome and Rage. For the World Champion, if you don't have these, it's easy. Hog Puppet and Haste Ball works great with ground armies. This is the number two across the board. For number three, for me, it's hard to do. I gotta toss a spiky ball in there with the giant gauntlet. Double epic can still work even after the nerfs both of these equipments got. It's just so good. And then sadly, the invisibility vial is gonna be at third place, but the healer puppet's gonna stay throughout because the way I use super witches, the queen is set to use the funnel, and having a little mini queen walk in there is just excellent. And then for my third choice for the warden is both books. It can work really well with super witches. You really don't need that healing, hence why I think the Eternal Tome and Rage would be better, or obviously number one, the Fireball and Rage gem. But at a number three choice, this works totally great. And for the World Champion, one a little bit kind of like out there, I like the Hog Puppet and Rocket Spear as like a number 3. It works nicely. Or if you don't have that, just go to Seeking Shield and Royal Gem. Don't stress yourself out. This can also work. But I'll catch you guys in the next army. We've got a lot of these to go, so I'm going to try speeding up. But I feel like going in depth really does help, like, just get my whole thinking out there. And then I can tell people to watch this video if they have any questions. Okay, the next army is the Rocket Loon Fireball army. And for this one, the king kind of changes. I like the Giant Gauntlet and Rage. Because I do this army with a hero dive with my king and queen, I need the tankier equipment, and that's a Giant Gauntlet and Rage. With the Phoenix, those extra 8 seconds really does help for your little hero dive if you say need some a little bit more value. I like the Phoenix. For the Queen, Frosty, Magic Mirror, Healer Puppet. Behind the King is just nasty. And then with my spells, I sometimes send an Invisibility and Rage for my Queen at the end when the King goes down to get even more value, say if it's a very compact base. Warden, at Town Hall 16, the Angry Jelly is great, and the number 1 equipment is the Fireball and Rage. Really, if you want to switch that up, I guess you could. But this one, sadly, it doesn't really have a second or third option. I would just, if you don't have it, I would use a different army. But you kind of need the Fireball and Rage gem. This isn't like Super Witches where you can just switch to the Eternal Tome. And Rage, the Fireball really does, you need that value. In terms of the Angry Jelly, however, if you're more confident with the strategy, I would recommend it. If you're not, then go to the Unicorn, please. Because the Angry Jelly can sometimes get you in trouble and just launch you into a lot of damage. And if you don't know how to deal with that, you're going to struggle. So then I would recommend the Unicorn. For the World Champion, Rocket Spear, Seeking Shield. It is so nasty with this army just to take out like a compartment when you need. And then the Spirit Fox, obviously you need that. If you're at Town Hall 15 and trying to use this army, all good. It's going to sound dumb, but diggy. It's diggy. It just provides so much value. Or heck, even the Poison Lizard would be fun. For the Warden, again, if you don't have the Angry Jelly, go to the Unicorn. Other than that, maybe the Owl if you want, but I would really stick to having either the Angry Jelly or the Unicorn. For the Queen, Frosty is my number 1 choice because it's one of the earlier pets and you don't have to rush too much to get it. Have that. If you're, say, running the jelly on the Warden, you can use the Unicorn here too if you want. It does not matter. For the King, I would really stick to having the Phoenix here. But, again, if you don't, the Yak can help for your hero portion, like that dive. Your King can help, the Yak can help break into walls. But, let's go turn our attention now to the equipment. This is the number 1 set that I'd recommend. But for number 2s across, I would say Spiky Ball, Earthquake Boots with the King. Queen, it's going to go back down to, sadly, I don't even want to do this, but it's going to be the Frozen Arrow. The word has to stay the same, guys, for especially this army. Unless you maybe, I was about to just toss in the Lava Loon Puppet, but I just don't want to do it. It's trash. Sadly, sorry about that. For the World Champion, Hog Puppet and Haste, but I kind of feel like how I do for the Warden. The Rocket Spear and Seeking Shield just provides so much more value, but what you have to do is be a little bit more careful on how you actually use the Hog Puppet in Haste. You can't just throw her in on a random compartment, expect her to take it out like you do with the Rocket Spear and Seeking Shield. So just play it more careful, but you still can use it. For number 3, however, the King is going to get changed up. It's going to get sent to the Giant Gauntlet and then the Vamp Stash to gain some health back on your hero dive. For your Queen, I just hate the Archer Puppet. It's so bad. I would just toss in the Invisibility. Warden, again, I'm sorry, this one's going to stay the same. Royal Champion, if you can't change it, just go Seeking Shield and then the Royal Gem. It actually can be quite good, but you would have to use it a little bit of a different way. You would say have to support it with some Rocket Loons to take out some hitter defenses and then kind of line it up, maybe even bring in like a Earthquake spell to kind of damage some buildings to take them one-shottable with the Seeking Shield. But that's for this army. I'll catch you guys in the next. I really am hoping you guys are finding this valuable because I'm kind of putting myself out there. I didn't know if you guys would like this a lot, but I've had so many questions, so for sure do let me know. But we got a lot of armies to get through, so let's speed this up. I need to. Okay, the next army is Fireball Lalo, and this one works kind of like the Rocket Loon army. The King, I'm going to run the Spirit Fox with the Earthquake Boots and Spiky Ball. Again, less tankier King. Spirit Fox works well. Royal Champion, you're going the Rocket Spear and Seeking Shield, hence why I put the Phoenix here. For the Warden, I usually like to have the Angry Jelly here. Honestly, the reason I switched to the Unicorn was to just tell most people, like, it's fine if you use the Fireball and Rage Gem with the Unicorn. You don't need the Angry Jelly for your charge with the healers. Royal Champion, the Queen, Frosty, with the Magic Mirror and the Healer Puppet. Sadly, the Queen does not have any versatility right now. Well, no, obviously the Queen has versatility. What I mean is in equipment, it's just this is the number 1 all around. Seriously, it's going to be in most of the armies. It's just such a good combination. For your King, like if you want to change up your pets, again, Phoenix for number 2, and then you just swap for the Royal Champion. But if you want to use something else, a sneaky one I've seen be tossed around in there is the Poison Lizard. Seriously, it works really well. And then say if you're running the Angry Jelly on the Warden, then you can switch to the Unicorn for your Queen. If not, say you're just not running it, I've seen some options with Diggy, but I don't really like it. I would just mostly stick to the Frosty, sadly. But because it's one of the original ones or close to, you can toss in the Unicorn, I'd say, if you don't have the Jelly. But for the Warden, Jelly, maybe number one, then the Unicorn, and then the Owl. If you don't have either, say, the Unicorn up or the Angry Jelly, just use the Owl. Royal Champion is where it gets a little bit more difficult. I would say at number one, the Phoenix. Number two, Spirit Fox. Number three, Diggy. After that, Lassie at a really bottom number four. And then for your equipment, this one sadly is the Rocket Loon Fireball kind of problem. The Warden's going to stay the same. You need the Fireball and Rage. It just works so nicely together. Royal Champion, number one obviously is all across, like as you see right now. But for the King, my number two is obviously the Rage and Giant Gauntlet. Works awesome. Queen, this is really not changing and kind of embarrassing. But actually, this one I might change up a little bit. I'm going to toss in the Giant Arrow. That's a nice one to also throw in here. And this one's finally one we could change the Queen up. And then for the Royal Champion, I really like the Hog Puppet and Haste Vial. If you say you just don't have the spear, just use this. Don't panic. It's all good. For your number three choice for your king, honestly, might just be the Giant Gauntlet with the Vamp Stash. Or if you say do luckily have the Spiky Ball up, just use double epics. And I said I don't want to do it because they're so costly. But number three, I would have to put the Giant Gauntlet with the Spiky Ball double epic for the Queen. Then at number three, I would put the Frozen Arrow. Sadly, the Invisibility Vial can be used, but these I'm ranking the best ones. Royal Champion, again, if you don't, say if your spear is like very, very low level, like level 9 and up, it's usable. So you can toss that in with the Hog Puppet, and that's actually a kind of a decent mixture too. I just wanted to point that one out because sometimes I don't know about you guys, but I watched some pro tournaments and they were having a lot of success in the World Championships with this kind of thing. So I want to at least put it down here so we don't look like a complete noob. But this is it for Rocket League. Sorry. I'm losing my mind here with all these different armies. What I meant was Fireball Lalo, sorry. But again, we'll move over to the next strategy. I'm just getting my brain mangled with all these different armies and different equipment sets. So even for me, this will be good to be coming back to just learn and keep fresh with these. Okay, for the next one, you see E-Dragons, but I'm going to lump in Mass Dragons too. Like, so if you're doing Mass E-Dragon attacks, Mass Dragons, or like a E-Dragon with a little bit of Dragon Riders mixed in, they're going to all come together and their equipments are going to kind of be like similar. For the King, Earthquake Boots, Spiky Ball with the Phoenix is just a classic combo. Queen, it's going to change up a little bit. We're going to do the Healer Puppet with the Giant Arrow with the Unicorn. Warden, I like the Owl with both books with E-Dragons. However, if you're doing Mass Dragons, this is a little bit of a change up. So sorry I have to mix this in, but it's the Eternal Tome and Rage I think works better with regular dragons. For E-Dragons, both books work better because you have so many Rages with E-Dragons anyway. You really don't get the value of the Rage Gem. Royal Champion, Spirit Fox with the Rocket Spear and Seeking Shield just works excellently. For the Warden, if you're trying to switch for your pet, I don't want to say this and just lock it in that it has to be the Owl, but I kind of feel that way. The second one that I'd pretty much be the only option is either the Lizard or maybe Diggy, I guess, but I would say the Lizard. But if you can, just use the Owl. I think it works best because it doesn't lure any of the CCs. Queen, if you don't want to use the Unicorn, just use Frosty. King, if you really want to change it up and you want to get in towards the base, I think the Yak could be a good one. Sorry, I didn't mean to click the Unicorn. Royal Champion, I would say if you don't have the Spirit Fox, go Diggy or go Lassie. For the King, another option could be the Angry Jelly for you Town Hall 16 players. But again, for you just majority, like say Town Hall 15 and below, either the Phoenix, below that, go the Yak. But in terms of equipment, you can actually have a little bit more fun with this. Again, I would go Giant Gauntlet and Rage for your number two, just easy accessible. I would say the double epics, but it's too costly. For the Queen, if you don't have that, I would put the Magic Mirror here, but honestly, you don't really need it. So I no, that's unfair. I should put this at number two. It's probably the best option. For your Warden, things are going to get a little bit different. I actually like the Life Gem instead. Like you could do the Eternal Tome and Life Gem with E-Dragons. With regular dragons, it would have to be the Rage as your number two choice. But just saying that, actually for my number one choice for dragons, regular dragons, it's the Eternal Tome and Rage. But your Healing Tome would be your second option, so both books. But let's just focus on E-Dragons right now, and then the Life Gem can honestly be very good. For your Royal Champion, my second, again, is probably just going to have to be the Hog and Haste. But if you have the Spear, please use it. Over level 9, it's fine. These are your number two targets. For your number three, for your King, I do put the Vamp Stash in, And this one I switch up. I go Giant Gauntlet and Vamp Stash. Works very good together. For your queen, however, this one you could probably switch things up and just put the frozen arrow in. I do like the healer puppet. It just works great to have a little mini queen walk on the outside and set your funnel. For your warden, your third option possibly, I've seen some people use fireball, but I'm not going to put that in there, is probably the healing and life gem. I do kind of want to even say the healing and rage, but those ones, it kind of like hit or miss. It's really what you feel best works for you and your army. For the world champion, honestly, it might have to be, oh, sorry, didn't mean to click that, is a hog puppet, and then the rocket spear. If you want and you don't even have those, it's all good. Just go the original equipments. That can work too. But like I say, with E-Dragons and Dragons, I just mixed them together. I didn't want to just make it extra long to just describe a couple little changes. So if it got a little bit hairy in here, just drop it in the comments if you didn't understand anything. I can like literally list them all again. Don't worry. I'm open to questions, and you know I answer all of you guys. So we'll see you guys in the next strategy now. Okay, for the next strategy is Root Riders, but we're going to talk about a couple versions. One, we're just going to think of like a normal Root Rider spam. The number one I would say is Earthquake Boot Spiky Ball with the Phoenix. Works very good on the King. Queen, Magic Mirror Healer Puppet with Frosty. Sadly, a really classic. Warden Diggy with the Eternal Tome and Rage. Works very well with Root Riders. World Champion, Hog Puppet and Haste Vial. Honestly, for ground armies, and because this one's so common and a lot of people have this leveled up, I'll put it at the number one. In terms of actual equipment, though, this one's going to change a little bit, but first let's just talk about the pets. For your Royal Champion, you can switch the Warden with, you can do Diggy on the Royal Champion, and then for the Warden, you can do the Lizard. Working behind the Root Riders is a great option. So for your Royal Champion, I'd say Spirit Fox, Diggy, or if you need, maybe Lassie, sadly, or you could maybe put something else, but no, I would say those are your options. Spirit Fox, Diggy, Lassie, Warden, Diggy number one, or the Unicorn. Just have it behind healing some stuff. It can work well. Third option, probably Frosty if you're not running it on the Queen. Queen, definitely run Frosty. Number two, the Unicorn if you say you don't have it on the Warden. Those are the two I'd stick with. Other than that, really, I don't like it. For the King, however, if you don't want to run the Phoenix, run the Yak. Like in Mighty Mike's army, the Yak was working great. And then for the Royal Champion, once we get into the actual equipment, this is where the fun part begins. This is the number one I'd recommend for right now. Number two, however, is going to change a little bit. I'm going to go the Giant Gauntlet and Rage. And then for your Queen, you can toss in the Frozen Arrow. Warden, I like both books with Root Riders, works nice. But for this one, actually, I'm going to put, look, the Rocket Spear and Seeking Shield. This is number two. But there's going to be a big change for number three. In Mighty Mike's army, if you don't have the Rocket Spear, the Haste and Royal Gem with the invisibility trick works very good. For your number three strategy for your Warden, I might just put in the Fireball and Rage, because you can Fireball Root Riders works, but honestly I prefer the Eternal Tome and Rage more, if I'm being honest, and even both books works better for me. And then for your Queen, the Invisibility Vial. This is your third selection. For the King, I'm gonna have to toss Double Epic still, but it's at the number three slot just because it's so expensive. Main reason being, Root Riders, you can have some fun with the equipment. You don't need to be too crazy. And you can kind of adjust with the spells you use. So you can, like, say if you have really, really weak level equipment, just rely more on the actual army itself and just use the equipments that you have at the highest level. These kind of lists I'm giving you is just to help you out and giving you a sense of what I feel like. So if you have some other options that are better, go with those. I don't feel bad. I'm not going to take it any harsh way. But I'll see you guys in the next army. And we're about to wrap this up, but there's a couple left I still want to talk about. Okay, the next army is Twin Hogs, but I'm going to loop Hybrid into this too, just because I didn't want to make them two different ones. It's kind of like that whole E-Dragon thing again. But for the King, Earthquake Boots and Spiky Balls, sadly, I know it's probably boring, but still, I do think it's the number one option. Queen, sadly, I do apologize, but still, I want to be fair and provide the best stuff. Warden is where it changes. Eternal Tome and Life Gem. Guys, with Hybrid and Twin Hogs, I love the Life Gem. It's one of my favorites. It works so nice with them, especially after its recent buff. And then for the Royal Champion, Hog Puppet and Haste works very good with the Spirit Fox. King, if you want to change stuff up, because you're doing a hero dive, the Yak could be an option for your number two. I've even tried the Poison Lizard and actually found some pretty good success. Queen, if you're not using Frosty, I would switch over to the Unicorn on the Warden, just give them a swap. Or a third option, really, I don't have a telltale one, is maybe Lassie, sadly, but I would recommend just using Frosty or the Unicorn. For the Warden, Unicorn or you could run Diggy here. Diggy's a very good option for your Warden. And then if you don't say have the Spirit Box, it would have to be Diggy and then just leave the Unicorn on the Warden. Just wanted to let you guys know that. But for Town Hall 15s, I'd say for the World Champion, just use Diggy. Warden, use the Unicorn. Frosty for the Queen. Phoenix for the King. If you don't have the Phoenix, just use the Yak. All good. In terms of the equipment, this is where it's going to be a little bit different. King, I would change over to the Giant Gauntlet and Rage. It makes your King tankier, and for a hero dive, it works splendid. For your Queen, all good. This time, I'd actually recommend the Invisibility Vial over the Frozen Arrow. It works very well behind your King, and then if sometimes something locks onto your Queen, having that second of invisibility really does help. For the Warden, it would obviously be both books, and then a close for your Royal Champion. It's close, but I would put the Rocket Spear and Seeking Shield behind. It's just, it works well with anything, but I would still put Hog Puppet and Haste at number 1. For your number 3 choice, I have to run double epics on the King. Sadly, it sucks, but you have to do it. Frozen Arrow for the Queen. And for the Warden, I would just put the Rage in the Eternal Tome together. It works well, Twin Hogs. You don't really need the Rage. I would rather have the Healing or the Life Gem, obviously the Life Gem, but this is your third option, so I still wanted to put it there. And then for your Royal Champion, it would have to be the Hog Puppet and the Rocket Spear. I would put at number 3. I was going to put the originals, but I was like, you know what? I don't think they're that great with this army, but hey, you could put them in there. But again, this is for Twin Hogs and Hybrid. Just put them together because they are very similar. And Hybrid's a little bit weaker. I would rather say use Super Hogs, but if you're like a lower level player and you don't want to be spending too much Dark Elixir, then just revert back to Hybrid. That's totally fine. But I just put them together to make it easier on myself. And then the last thing I really wanted to talk about, I was going to do another one talking about like say E-Titans and Super Bowlers. Sadly, just because of the sake of how long the video is getting, what I wanted to say about them is just relate them to the Super Witches. They work just the same because it's a smash style attack. They don't really have equipment or like say even like the hero pets really change. So if you need to like go back to those, look at the Super Witches. They can relate to the Super Bowlers and like an E-Titan smash, or even like Synchronic's army is kind of like a different one you can kind of switch out with Super Bowlers, but Super Bowlers and Super Witches go really well together, so just use those kind of and eyeball them. And if you have any more questions, just put them in the comment section. Please do let me know if you enjoyed this video, and if I missed an army, I tried doing my best to just cover as many armies as possible, but if I did a couple more, it would just make this video incredibly long, and I don't want to do that. It's already very long. Let me know if you enjoyed it though. Seriously, I'm putting myself out there and I feel weird doing it, but I felt like I saw so many questions asking for this, and let me know, did this actually help you though? Like, is this something you'd want to see more of, in my opinion, on these, on different armies? Hence why I put the equipments and pets together. I didn't want you guys looking at 2 different videos to just find that and make them condensed. Give you one video, you can come back to it anytime. Let me know, please do, in the comments, is this something you liked? And then I'm doing a spooky scenery giveaway in the last video that I announced. If you want to enter, do so. All you got to do is be subscribed to the channel, like this video, drop one comment to get one entry. But remember, if you dropped a comment in the earlier video on Synchronic's army, you don't have to drop drop a comment again. This is just to give more people a chance to enter, say if they didn't see that video from earlier today. The winner will be announced after tomorrow night's video. So it's just one winner. And then I've got, I think, one more giveaway to give away, like one more spooky scenery to give away, but this will be my second to last one, and then we'll do another giveaway in tomorrow night's video for the last spooky scenery. So stay tuned for that. Again, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next upload. Peace out.